At the time, it was pretty good. I mean, I only weighed 85 kilos. I've done 145 in competition. So if I would have snatched 150, then you're talking a little bit more on the elite side. But you got to remember, in weightlifting, you can't really compare guys in the U.S. to these other countries.
Hmm.
We're playing two different ball games. I think some people are gonna be like, oh, that's like, it's an excuse. It's not. Like, we're just, we have these guys in Russia, Kazakhstan, doesn't matter. Like, they're all doping, all of them. Not,
Yeah.
this isn't like a partial thing. And we have this thing called USADA here in the U.S. And they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you can swear on this thing.
You can swear as much as you want to.
Okay. Yeah, USADA doesn't give a fuck who you are. They will pop you. They will test you 1,000 times a year. They'll show up at your house in the middle of the night. They don't care. And if you're using shit in the US in weightlifting, like, you're doing a really good job of hiding it. I mean, if nobody's watched that documentary called Icarus,
It's
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it's
fantastic.
right. But that is the world that we're living in. And like, Rusada, the head of Rusada, was the one
Cutting
helping
holes in
everyone he
walls.
does.
Helping
Right.
amateur cyclists across the across the planet. He's like, he just reaches out. He's like,
He
hey, I
just
want to beat this amateur cycling test. He's like, no problem. Send me samples.
he
Let's get
loves
going.
doping so much that he
Yeah.
would help
Exactly.
this random ass guy across the planet. Like,
That
Yeah.
is actually, it's kind of one of my favorite things to talk about because a lot of times people talk about testing as it's just trying to beat an IQ test. And it's like, I think it gets a lot more granular than that. Like, you have to talk about, like, what country are you in? What sport are you in? What's the anti-doping program that you're in? I mean, there's obvious evidence that Icarus was just 2016. It wasn't even that long ago, right? When the Sochi Olympics happened. Was it 16 or 18? Whatever.
Sochi was 14.
definitely the
Sochi was
real-
14, 2014. Wasn't that long ago.
Don't ever ask me a question again.
But like, we know that the testing is pretty good because the plan that they came up with was to cut a hole in the wall and switch the samples out, right? So like, it wasn't like they were trying to beat the test by, masking it or running special compounds or whatever, right? They were trying to beat the test by physically replacing the athlete urine with somebody else's, right? And like, I think that goes to show like how good the testing actually can be. And so in the nations where there is no state sponsored thing and they do actually follow through on testing and there is random out of meet testing and there is a penalty for skipping it, I don't know how somebody goes about getting ahead of that whole program.
No, I mean, I've been drug tested multiple times. You can go on USADA's website and you can look up how many times everybody's been tested. I mean, literally, you can see everything. And like, you can go look at like Maddie Rogers. I think she's been tested hundreds of times. I mean, it's insane, like how often these people are getting tested. I cannot feasibly understand how anybody would be beating it here in the US for at least a long period of time, right? Like, Maddie's been doing this for like a decade. I don't know how she's beating it for a decade. You might beat it for a year or two. I don't know, maybe, but you're not
Right.
going to be able to do it for very long.
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? That your B samples get archived for like 8 years. So even if you add some designer thing or masking
Right.
agent or something, if they figure out a test between now and 8 years from now, they come back and they take away your entire competitive history. So like,
Well, that's what the whole thing with Icarus was, right? That guy basically changed the sport of weightlifting for sure. I mean, he changed all sports, but he said, hey, when he got caught, he made a deal and said, like, hey, go test all those B samples from I think it would be 2028, or sorry, 2008 and 2012 Olympics. And he said, and test for this particular thing. And I bet you'll find a lot of positives. And I want to say, like, in 2012, the top 7 guys in like my weight class all popped.
yeah.
So like the 8th place guy got a retroactive gold, right? So it's like, you know,
Like, kind of horrific thing that is too as a competitor. Like, there's that same story. Adam Nelson, the U.S. shot putter, went through that where
hmm
he came in silver or bronze, and then there was some test, and he got his gold medal in an airport. Like, they just
sorry,
he just
airport Chick-fil-A, I think, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
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 in
right,
a brown paper sack
yeah.
is what yeah.
And so, like, you train your entire life. You are literally the best in the world. Somebody comes in and pulls the rug out from under you, and then you find out years later that no, you actually were the best in the world. And especially like in his case, if people don't know the story, Adam Nelson got dropped by Nike. So Nike was sponsoring him. I'm pretty sure it was Nike. Don't sue me, Nike, if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he was, sponsored by Nike. They dropped him. They thought he was past his prime, and he was like going to shirts or going to competitions with shirts that said like, sponsor me. Your ad goes here or whatever, trying to find a new sponsor. And he just had like a much harder career than than his pedigree would have ever led you to believe. And so like those kinds of things are really difficult. So I can't imagine coming in 8th place and being like, you're like, well, I made it to Worlds, that was pretty good, I'm not the best, and then come back later on, they're like, no, actually you were.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost why like for me, my goal was to win a national championship. Whatever happened after that, I'd love to go compete at the Pan American Games or, one of those international events, maybe a bronze level international event. But I kind of knew with, originally the goal is the Olympics, but you start to become less naive as things go on, and so yeah, my goal was always to say, hey, if I win a national championship, that means that I'm the best at the against the guys that I'm playing the same game as.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to a point where you were encountering like out of season, like piss tests or anything? Because I remember, I
Yeah,
think as far as out of season, one of my best, I think it was Rich Froning, the CrossFit
Mm-hmm.
superstar, and he was talking about like one time like they knocked on his door at like 5 in the morning, and he like sat on his couch until he woke up again, and then like followed him to a classroom, and he's like finally like 4 hours later had to piss, and they were like, all right, we're
Yeah.
here. It's like you're not getting out of my sight for as long as you are. It's like that's fucking. I mean, that's what you would have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's crazy how dedicated they are to make sure that they can catch you.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean when I say they don't fuck around. Like the first time I got tested was in competition, but it was after the meet, and you go into this room, and they got Gatorades and waters everywhere because they want to make you pee. And I was super young. I think I was like 20 or 21. Finally, I was like, okay, I think plus you're kind of dehydrated because you cut weight. So you're having trouble feeling like you got to pee. But they say, you can't leave the room basically, or if you do, we got to go with you. They will set out a bunch of cups in front of you that are all in the plastic wrap, and then you have to choose the cup because they don't want you to be able to say, "Hey, we gave him like a tampered
Thank
cup."
you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you choose the cup that you're gonna use, and then you have to be the one that takes it out of the plastic wrap. Like they can't touch anything. And then like I remember going down to the bathroom, and the guy standing, he's just staring at my dick, just directly at it, right? And I'm like, again, I'm like 21 years old, I think. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
It makes it more difficult to pee.
No, I think I was 19 actually. I was super young, and I'm like, yeah, I've never had that before. And I literally we stood there for like 5 minutes, and the guy finally is like, we can come back, and I was like, let's do that. Zipped it back up, went back in the room, drank some more water. But then they're like, oh, you can't drink too much water because then
Right.
if your sample's too diluted, then that doesn't count either, and we got to do it all over again, right? So you're kind of screwed either way on that. And then okay, then you're done, and you remember you're carrying the cup. You're the only one that can touch the cup, and then you got these two glass jars, and you got to pour a certain amount in each jar, and then you lock them down. And when you lock them down, there's this locking mechanism that they talk about that in Icarus a little bit, like. But I don't know how on earth you're getting the tops off of these things. I mean, they are just like wound so tight. So it's crazy, man. Like they do not mess around, and I don't know how you're passing those tests.